Hello everyone, Gabriel Carrillo from the Florence Unified School District Ed Tech Department here, and we're going to go ahead and start a new video on how to use the Activinspire software with your Promethean board. So those of you that are at schools that have Promethean boards, the Activinspire software icon looks like this. And this is the proprietary software that comes with the board that gives you some real powerful tools to create some very intricate lessons that are both pleasing to the eye as well as interactive and engaging for the students. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the Activinspire icon, and you will notice that mine really didn't take that long to open. However, when you first open yours on your computer, it's going to take some time. It's a very large program. There's lots of add-ons and lots of files within that particular program, so it's going to take a while. Here, as you can see, that I have a there's an update that's ready to download and install, but I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that. We highly suggest you guys go ahead and do that before you get started. Make sure you're on the most recent version. And let's kind of let's get into the navigation here. Here's our Activinspire Studio. It kind of has like a PowerPoint feel to it with the slides over here on the left. However, Activinspire does not call these pages slides. It calls them pages within a flip chart. So the lessons that we're going to be creating in here are known as flip charts. Now, you can see that on the left hand side there is this page browser that allows me to go from page to page. Over here we have this floating toolbar. I'll show you how to kind of manipulate that and customize that to your liking. And it basically has almost every tool that we're going to need available to us at all times here. We have this trash can here that comes in handy. If you want to get rid of it, by all means go ahead and get rid of it by clicking on that X. But I'm going to show you guys a couple of common things that people come across. So every once in a while, when you open Activinspire, your browser's not going to be there. And some people, they start going into a frenzy or what have you. Hey, I can't navigate through my pages. What do I do? Well, here's the first thing you're going to want to do. Make sure you click on View up here. And by clicking on that, you will notice that our menu bar is on, our Documents tab is on, and our flip chart trash can is on. But our browsers are not. We're going to go ahead and click that, and that is what makes those browsers appear. Okay? And within that browser, we have multiple tabs. We have the page browser, which is basically a means to navigate through your pages. We have this really cool resource browser. We're going to get into that in a little bit and how to download these really cool resource packs. We have an object browser. Once you start getting into some advanced lesson planning in that and flip chart building, you can really play around with the object browser, because Activinspire is all about layers and putting things on top of each other and moving stuff behind layers and so on and so forth. We have this notes browser with notes to the teacher if you need to put some notes depending on what you're working on. You have the properties browser, and this is where you can, once again, really make things engaging and entertaining for your audience, whether it be your class or parents for Meet the Teacher Night or what have you. Action browser, this is where you can actually make actions happen. And then we have this voting browser. Those of you who have the Activinspire clickers, the Promethean clickers, here is where you register them and get all that stuff started within them. That's a whole different training on its own, and if you'd like some additional one-on-one, get in contact with the EdTech department and let us know that you're interested in getting clickers. You're interested in using clickers. And then at that point, you would check out a set from your school library circulation system. Make sure you check it out to your name, and then let us know. We'll go into your class. We can help you set them up and actually do a couple sample lessons with your kiddos. That way you can actually see it in action before you start trying it on your own. All right, so that's kind of our browsers here. We went over that. I'm going to go back to our page browser. Now let's go into this toolbar. You'll see that it's a floating toolbar that you can, basically put wherever you want. I don't suggest putting it here because then it's in the way of your actual flip chart pages. But you can actually dock this on different sides of the board. There is the toolbox options here. There's this roll up. There it is. And then we have this pin, and I'll show you what that means for each one of these. As a matter of fact, it's on the browsers over here as well. So the toolbox options, right now it's dock to right, and that's the default. But if you want to dock this on the left-hand side, you can click dock on the left. If you want to dock it on the top, by all means do so. Dock bottom. That one is probably the most popular with our lower grades, kindergarten through, I want to say, about 3rd or 4th grade, because the placement of the board, they sit pretty high up on the walls, and especially when you have students who can't reach, let's say they can't reach a certain tool. If it's docked up here on the right, that bottom works out really, really well. Okay, so that's where you can kind of play around with that. Let's say that you wanted your toolbox, I should say, on the left, and then your browsers on the right. You could basically do the same thing. You can dock your browsers to the right, and basically dock your toolbox on the left. I'm very OCD, and I'll tell you right now, my head's hurting just looking at this. I cannot deal with this. Can't breathe. Oh, there we go. Much better. All right, so that's kind of how you can change the orientation and the look of the actual Activinspire flip chart and lesson that best suits you. Now, because I have this browser here popping out and I have this toolbox floating as well, it kind of doesn't leave me too much room here in the middle to actually play around and do some stuff here. But there's this pin right here. Looks like a thumbtack. And if you click on it, you click on it for the toolbox as well, you have some more real estate to play with. Now, that doesn't mean that those items go away. I didn't lose the toolbox, I didn't lose the browsers. It just so happens that they move out of the way when I move my cursor away from them and onto the actual canvas here. So if I just kind of move and hover my mouse over there, it pops out for me. If I click over here, it goes away. Same thing with the toolbox. If I need to work on something, change a couple tools or plans, I can do that, and then I can click somewhere else. Then I can click somewhere else. There we go, and then it goes away. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and put these back in so we can see them at all times right now. All right, so up here you have your menu. If you need to create a new flip chart, here's where you would do so. You can do different size depending on the resolution of your computer. However, our computers are set to 1024 by 768, and I believe that's the default, so you don't ever have to do that. If you need to open up a flip chart, open up the recent ones that you've worked on, you can close the flip chart. You can actually work on multiple ones at one time, and they will basically show up as different tabs. This one's called Untitled, so rule of thumb is I should probably give it a name. So I'm going to go ahead and save this to my documents, and I'm going to go ahead and name this Promethean. Actually, instead of Promethean, I'm going to call it Activinspire. Activinspire Screencast. There we go. And you'll see that it's saved, and the title up here changed as well. All right. Now, I have one page, and it's the default. Okay, that's kind of bland. We'll get to that in a little bit. Let's continue on here. Here's where you have your save and your save as. This import is pretty important. If you have some existing PowerPoints or PDFs that you have, that you kind of have in your digital toolbox for pre-made lessons or what have you, you can actually import your PowerPoint directly into the flip chart, and it'll create a different page on the flip chart for each slide in the PowerPoint presentation you have. Same with the PDF. You can import a PDF and actually have a separate page in the flip chart for every separate page within the PDF. Those of you smart notebook users, you can actually pull in smart notebook files as long as they were built with version 8 through 10. And And then here's the really cool stuff, is the resource pack to my resources or to the shared resources. We're going to show you that a little bit later. And and then you can also export files to different to interactive whiteboard files that can be shared amongst colleagues, and that we're not going to get too much into that though. Edit. You got a lot of the stuff here that is already over here. As you can see, like the reset page button is sitting here. Your clear, there it is. You can clear basically anything and everything from your page on your page, depending on which one you choose. All that stuff is here, and you can see by clicking on it, I get the exact same options. So that your edit, you're not, if you train yourself to use this toolbox more than anything, you're not going to have to click up here very much. You got your view here. Insert, you can insert media, in other words, pictures that you might have on your computer, flash drive, pictures that you might have pulled in from the internet. You can pull that stuff in. You can link things to different files or different websites. So if you're working on a music lesson and you have an MP3 file of a guitar solo for one of your classes, you might have a drawing or an object here of a guitar, and you can actually link that to that MP3 file so that when you click on it, it'll actually play the audio. So just to give you an idea of some of the things that we can do here. Same thing with some of our tools. Majority of them are here. Now, if there's a couple things that are here that you don't have here, we're going to go ahead and show you how to customize that toolbar. So let's go ahead. Let's go to the help. The help is if you need to check for an update, you can always click on check for updates there. Now, let's show you how to customize this toolbox here. So I'm going to kind of just pull it over just so it's closer in proximity. And I'm going to go ahead and edit. View, and then let's go ahead and customize. Okay, so here's my main toolbox. Actually, I should have probably left it where it is. Let's go back and view, customize, and here's our main toolbox right there. And here are all the commands that exist within Activinspire. Those that are grayed out are already here. Those that are that have color means that they're not here. However, we do have some wiggle room here to play with. So let's say that I wanted this clock. I want that clock on my browser over here. I'm sorry, not on my browser, on my toolbox. I can click on the clock and then click add. And where'd it go? There it is. It just added it to it. Vice versa. If I didn't want one of these commands on here, one of these tools and shortcuts, I can actually get rid of it. For example, this express pull. If I know that I'm not going to be using it because I don't have clickers or I don't plan on using them, I can simply remove, and then it takes them away. And you can move stuff up and down with these commands, and then just make sure you click done when you know that you're done. And then now we kind of have customized our toolbox to our likes and our needs. All right, so we've learned kind of going through these menus up here. We learned a little bit about the page browser and the different tabs that go along with it, and then our floating toolbox, docking it and customizing it. Now let's kind of get into some very, very basics on Activinspire, and let's start building something. You will notice that I have a pen here and also a highlighter. So if I click on the pen, oh, by the way, it'll always go back to when you launch the program, your select tool will be the default tool. So if I go to pen and I wanted to write something on the board with my actual Promethean pen, I can choose a color, and then I can also choose a thickness. And that's not the, actually I'm going to show you this one here. And I'm going to write hello. I'm doing this with a mouse because I'm doing a screencast. Okay. Now that was this thickness. Let's say if I wanted to write it a little bit thicker, same thing. You would basically grab your tool, choose your pen and choose the thickness of it. And same thing, you could change colors and so on and so forth. Now, if you wanted to erase one of those, you can literally grab your eraser tool and erase. And as you can see, it might be a little bit difficult to see. I'm going to kind of hold it still so that I can zoom in on this. But you will notice that there's a little outline of a circle or a square underneath that eraser, and that's the thickness. Just the way that you can adjust the thickness of the pen when you write, you can do the exact same thing for the eraser. So I'm going to go ahead and just really bump that up, and now you can see I've got a very thick eraser that does the work literally in about a third of the time it would take if I was to use that really small thin one. So perfect. We've explored the pen tool, the eraser tool, and highlighter works basically the same as the pen. There's a really cool shape tool here. So let's say I was going to do some geometry stuff and I wanted to put in a rectangle. This would be my pen color, in other words, the outline of the rectangle. Let's say I wanted the outline of my rectangle to be black, and I wanted the interior of it to be green. And I'm going to just beef up the thickness a little bit, and then I'm just going to click and drag and hold, and I now have a rectangle. Now, when you're adding shapes, rule of thumb is when you know that you've added the shape that you want, go back and change to your select tool. That way you don't do the following. If I click and I draw my rectangle, and then I call a kiddo up to grab the pen and point to the vertices of the rectangle. If I'm still in my shape tool and the kid comes up, he's going to start drawing stuff on accident. So that's why we say always kind of remind yourself to go back to your select tool. If that does happen, we talked about that trash can, you can literally grab, drop, and then hover over the trash can until you see that red arrow, and it disappears. And there you go. So now I have an object. A couple different things we're going to show you that you can do with different objects. If I right click on it, I get all these different options to do to manipulate that object. If I just left click on the object, I get the same things, but I get them in they have a different look and feel to them because they're sitting on top of the actual object. This will freely move the object. That kind of curved line allows me to rotate the object into a different orientation. There we go. This will pull up basically the same thing as my right click. This transparency, if you click and hold it, you can play around with the different transparencies of that particular object. That is really hard on the eyes. Okay. There we go. This grouped, I'd have to put a different object on there. So let's go ahead and actually I'm going to reserve that for something different. Bring forward. Remember we said Activinspire is all about layers. Send backward. You can put them on different layers. If I needed to duplicate that object, instead of trying to draw it exactly the same shape and orientation, you can basically click on the duplicate, and I now have a duplicate of that object. And that really, really comes in handy. This one here will increase the size of the object. This one here will decrease it. Let me go one more time because my OCD is kicking in. There we go. And then right here we have the edit the shape points. So I can kind of play around and manipulate that based on the points. So if you want to talk about geometry, instead of having a quadrilateral over here, I now have looks like I have a heptagon here, 7 sides. Awesome. I don't like that. That doesn't work with me. I'm going to undo, and the way to undo is there's an undo button here. There we go. Much better. Now, I did say that I was going to show you the grouping. I can't tell you how many times I've seen teachers try to draw a Venn diagram on the board and spending a lot of time trying to draw 2 circles perfectly and trying to move them in the correct manner. And when you do that, you kind of lose the kids. You want to do something quick. You want to do it right so that you spend the majority of your time on task. So all I did was I chose a circle, chose my width, my pen width, and then since I'm going to do a Venn diagram, the fill color, I want it to have no color. So if I choose this little icon here, this little button, that will give us a transparent interior. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle here. Beautiful. One of the best circles I've ever drawn. And remember, I drew a shape. I'm going to want to go back to my select tool. Then I can click on it, and I'm going to duplicate that. Now I have two circles. I'm going to make sure I grab that other one I created, and I now have a Venn diagram. Now, each one of these circles is its own independent object. If I want to group them together so that they move together as one, then I can make sure I'm not within the boundaries of those. I'm on my select tool, and I'm just going to kind of click and drag and draw myself a rectangle around those two. And now it kind of pulled them together. However, I need to tell the program, I want you to group these two. And there's my grouped button. If I click grouped, they now move together as one. We're going to take it a step further. If I'm doing a Venn diagram with my students, kids are going to be coming up and writing on either one of these two independent circles or what they have in common. I don't want a student to accidentally grab this and move it out of the way, or even worse, possibly throw it into the trash can. I almost want this to be part of the background. If I want to make this a part of the background, I can click just like I did here, or actually I'll just do that, and I'm going to choose this edit menu, and you're going to see a locked button. If I click locked, I cannot move that object anymore. It's locked. It's part of the background. Okay. Now, there are times where you're going to want to lock an object, but you're going to want to be able to manipulate it while you're building the lesson. So when I'm up there in front of the class with the kids, I want it locked. When I'm building the lesson during my prep after school or before school or what have you, I want to be able to move this without having to remind myself, oh, I got to lock it tomorrow before the kids come in. That's what this design mode is. We're in the blue design mode, which means this is basically how it's going to show in front of the students. If I click it to orange, by clicking on it, it's locked, but because I'm still designing, it allows me to move it. So I locked it, but I can move it, and then when it's time to to actually start my lesson or what have you, or to save it, I could just basically click on it to make it blue, and it locks it in place for me. That way I'm not worried about students moving it around. All right, so now we've played around with the shape tool, erasers and all that. We're going to give you guys some time, play around, get to know your software more. And for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and just trash this. And I'm going to show you guys something really, really cool. I have a browser open here, and I went to PrometheanPlanet.com. Very, very important, crucial website. You're going to love it. PrometheanPlanet.com. That's the actual website for the Activinspire developers and that. And there's some really neat stuff. And as you can see up here, I am signed in. So I highly, highly, highly suggest that everyone create an account. And you can create an account by, there should be a button here that says register, but I'm already logged in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for resource packs. So I'm going to type in resource pack into the search box and hit enter. It's going to take me there, and let's say that I was going to do a lesson on geometry. So I have my filters here. I want the resource type is going to be, I'm going to leave that as it is, but I want geometry. And And I'm going to leave this blank, but you guys can go ahead and delve down into your range, your age range. And you can really look at that. I have all these resource pack, math collections, assorted backgrounds and templates, geometry baseball game. So let me see here. Mixed numbers and improper fractions. Wow, look at that. I like that. Actually, this geometry one's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and download that. You can preview it. I'm going to go ahead and download it. Actually, you know what? No. I'm going to try this mixed numbers one. It has a little bit better reviews. You know what? Scrap that. I'm going to do this math collection one. That one's got the most reviews, and you can always, when you preview it, you can check out the reviews and that. And you will notice that, there it is. It's downloading into my downloads folder. So it didn't take very long. It took all of maybe 10 seconds, and it downloaded to my downloads folder. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go back to my Activinspire, and I'm going to go File, and then I'm going to go Import. And this time I'm going to import a resource pack to my resources. I've downloaded it, and I know for a fact it went to my downloads folder. Math collections, there you are. And I'm going to go ahead and click open. And it's going to take a while depending on the size of the resource pack. But what it's going to do is it's going to pull all that stuff in so that when we go to our resource browser over here, all that stuff's going to show up, and I'll be able to use it in my lesson. So let's kind of go in there. Okay, so this is my resources. These are the shared resources, and you can kind of play around with both of them. I'm going to go ahead and go to my resources, and I'm going to go to resource packs, and look at that. There's my geometry one. Okay, geometry pages. Look at that. Look at that. There's a coordinate plane. Wow, look at really cool stuff that I was able to import. Interactive quadrilateral, look at that. If I like what I see, I can literally click on it and drag it. And then now I actually can manipulate this. That is pretty cool. I really like that. Interesting. Let's go to this objects. Look at that. You can talk about chords and radius, all that good stuff with your circles. Let me go to another page. The way you go to another page is you just click on this arrow, it takes you to the next page. And if I go to my page browser, you will now see that I have 2 pages. So I'm going to go to the second page, go back here, and let's say that, there we go. That is really small. Let me just grab that. Let's say my next page is going to be something along the lines of this. So my students were going to learn this today. So I'm going to put that up there, and I might do something like this. I might hide it with that transparency, and then the kids will come in and they might say, oh, what are we going to do today, Mr. Creel? And I'm going to say, well, that's the one thing we're going to be working on, surface area for a particular polygon. And then you might have other things down here. You might add stuff and actually do some really cool surface area things with your class. So play around with it, get to know your resource packs, download them, install them onto your Activinspire software on your computer, and start building and taking a look at some of the lessons that are available for you and some of the stuff that you can actually create and share amongst each other. Build your resources, build your own lessons. Maybe get with your team and one of you create one lesson a week. Each one of you create one lesson a week using Activinspire for a different subject area, and then share them amongst yourselves. And instead of just building one and having one, if you build one and your other 3 teammates build one, you now have 4 different lessons, one for each different subject area that you guys can share and talk about and do with your class. So, and that will only lead to you guys actually wanting to do more and figuring out more stuff that you could do. We're literally scratching the surface on how powerful this program really is. So, Activinspire, get to know it, use it, you will love it. This is the EdTech department signing off. We appreciate and thank you for watching this video. Hope you learned something from it, and if you need some additional resources or help, please contact us and we'll be more than willing to work with you and help you with what you need for your class to succeed. Thank you and have a great day.